Now, he was in the same building when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot dead in 1968. And he celebrated with Barack Obama when he became the first black US president 40 years later. The Reverend Jesse Jackson is known all over the world for his fight for civil rights. And today he was in the Midlands for a very different challenge. Andy Bevan explains.
From the State House to the courthouse to the White House.
He tried twice, but never did make it to the Oval Office. Nevertheless, the Reverend Jesse Jackson has changed prejudices and changed history during his 40-odd years in the public eye. His work in the 1960s civil rights movement made him heir apparent to Martin Luther King, but he says his real calling came from God. Today at Leicester's de Montfort University, the Reverend Jackson was addressing a conference on the violent radicalisation of terrorists, here at the invitation of Leicester East MP Keith Vaz. The conference will report back to his Home Affairs Select Committee.
In America, in the civil rights struggle, we fought against radical violence led by the government. After all, slavery is radical violence. Segregation by race, apartheid, is radical violence. We chose to fight back non-violently. If you fight back violently, you simply spread the disease. There's no future in violence.
This is not the first time the Reverend Jackson has been in Leicester. His visit to the People's Centre a decade ago drew huge crowds. Today, though, he took time to meet one-to-one with de Montfort professor Simon Dyson, who presented him with his book on how sickle cell anemia has been wrongly attributed to deaths in police custody, something Reverend Jackson has also campaigned on.
One of the cases in the book involves Mikey Powell, who died in Handsworth in 2003, and at first people were misled by the idea that it might be sickle cell trait, but in fact an inquest jury in 2009 found that it was asphyxia, caused by the position that he was placed in the police van when he was arrested.
This will be a personally fulfilling UK visit for the Reverend Jackson. This evening in this church, a short walk from the university, he'll receive an honorary degree. Not only that, but during the media briefing at today's conference, Keith Vaz announced he's nominating the Reverend Jackson for a Nobel Prize.
I'm overwhelmed with the idea. But we continue to struggle, not looking for the honor, but looking for the service. And it is the service we see results. I mean, more people 50 years later are able to vote, a lot more challenges, more people have their human rights, a lot more work to go. More people have drinkable water, a lot more work to go, but we do see in the broad stroke human progress.
His recognition may be worldwide, but so is his ministry, and even at 70 years old, he says there's still work to do.
Well, Andy joins me now in the studio. Andy, many of us remember and respect the Reverend Jesse Jackson. What was it like meeting him and interviewing him today? Well,
Obviously it was a great honour. What struck me about him was he was actually quite a quiet man. I was in Leicester early this year to interview Desmond Tutu, who also, of course, is known for his campaigning, and he's very loud and very brash and very in your face. Reverend Jackson is a lot more subdued, but nevertheless a man of, as they say, wise words. For instance, I asked him about the fact that Leicester is due to become the first white minority city in the UK very shortly, and the fact that that might make some people feel a bit uncomfortable, but he had an interesting take on it. Here's what he had to say.
We can all move beyond race and choose reason, and we can all be driven by our abilities and not be limited by religion or by our race. We're all better off. So this should make a better, more progressive Leicester, the fact that you become a more inclusive city, that you see each other through a door and not through a keyhole.
That's nice. He described it as progressive. And what do you think his being there today gave to the conference and ultimately to the government?
Well, I think that this is a man who's lived through conflict, and he's been part of conflict, but he's found a solution to it through peaceful means. And the point of today's conference was to stop people being radicalised and turning to violence. And his personal experience, I think, in that field, although not of terrorism, but nevertheless transfers into that field, will be invaluable. Of course, it is, of course, a personal day for him, as I said in my piece as well, and some flash photography coming up here, as you can see the Reverend Jackson arriving in the church there for his honorary degree. He should be getting that, these pictures just a few minutes ago, he should be getting that probably as we speak, really. It's a very big day for him, but also a great pleasure for Leicester and the Midlands, of course, to welcome him back here again.
Andy, thank you very much, and great to see the Reverend Jesse Jackson being honoured in our region.